So my question is, where are you with Jesus? Like, Jesus being a historical figure, Jesus being someone that is documented by both Christian and secular scholars. And I view my faith through the lens of Jesus. So like, if I believe in the historical person in a historical vein, and then I reverse engineer everything after that. You know what I'm saying? Through that lens. So like, was Jesus a real person?
He could be if he wants to, yeah.
No. Historically. Like, this is a historical question.
I mean, there's accounts that somebody named Jesus existed.
And did some cool stuff and did some miracles and stuff like that.
Nah, no miracles.
No, there's historical accounts from secular scholars that he did miracles.
Okay, I mean, yeah.
So there was a man named Jesus who did miracles.
Who
was crucified by Romans. Who was crucified by Romans because they thought he was trying to overthrow their empire. And then
there's also witches that were crucified in what is it, Salem, you know, because I don't know, they were acting weird because they were goth.
Okay, yeah.
So like,
not the same though.
They
weren't
the doing miracles. Neither was Jesus.
The difference with Jesus is that there was dissent amongst that community because of the stuff he was saying, because of the stuff he was doing, because of how radical he was, and pushing back against the Pharisees, right, and pushing back against the religious leaders at the time. And then the historical event that like, his body can't be found. And we believe that he rose from the dead. Like, we believe the resurrection is a literal event based on the 500 eyewitness account, based on...
500... Where are these 500 eyewitnesses, bro?
It's in the scriptures. It says there was 500 eyewitnesses. He was around for 40 days. And listen, no. Let me finish my point. Let me finish my point. And we've never seen any other religious leader have this much of an impact where 2,000 years later we're still worshiping him. We're still believing
Muhammad, the fastest growing religion on earth right now?
Not the same at all, because Muhammad never claimed to be God. Muhammad never did miracles.
No, I understand that, but he wrote on a magic carpet, and people walk around a black rock in Mecca, and like, they really believe in that.
Yeah, they believe him as a prophet. They don't believe him as God.
No, we believe Jesus is God. I mean, there's some people that take Jesus' account and they don't believe him to be God. There's Jehovah's Witnesses don't think he's God,
and they're wrong.
See again, but this is your belief about it.
But this is my belief in a linear, logical
You know what this
sense.
turns into?
What is that?
This turns to Shannon and Skip Bayless in the morning, and instead of us arguing about LeBron, it's Jesus. And where we think he fits in the canon of historical figures. And
he's at the top,
goofy.
Though. He's at the top.
Well, yeah, through, the Roman Empire.
Sure.
Through...
That was 400 years after, though, the resurrection.
No, I understand.
You know what I'm saying? So you had a bunch of...
Through the Church of England.
A bunch of average dudes
through the Roman Catholicism.
Who were not the smartest or the sharpest... dudes.
Yeah, I've heard this.
That went on to radically transform history. You know what I'm saying?
Not always in good ways.
We're talking about the early church. I'm not talking about Constantine. I'm not talking about all that.
History did they transform in those early days?
Their environment, those circles, the community that they built, the way the gospel was then spread to the known world at that time. It spread all the way to Ethiopia.
Yeah.
Ethiopia was the first nation to establish.
It's not like they invented a wheel. It's not like they came up with an iPhone. It's just Jesus.
Yeah, but Jesus was the catalytic moment. That resurrection transformed everything, and now you have the biggest spread. And not only that, but then you have all these dudes that went on to be martyred and die horrible, horrific deaths for something that they would have had to have known was a lie.
I want to know why.
No, answer that, though. They would have all had to collectively agree and know that Jesus didn't rise, including his own brother had to know that Jesus didn't rise.
There's kids strapping themselves with bombs.
Yeah, but the difference is those kids are being deceived and they're being manipulated, and they don't know that what they're dying for is a lie. These people would have all had to know that without a doubt, this dude was not the son of God, that they tricked his body and buried his and hid his body, and then all go on to die horrible deaths when they could have just been like, hey, this is what happened. This is where the bones are at. We finessed y'all. don't kill me. I'm not trying to get crucified upside down. I'm not trying to get beheaded.
I just those aren't facts. Those are just
Those are facts.
No.
Fam, those are
what
facts.
I'm trying to say.
Paul was a real person.
Hold on.
Peter was a real person. These guys were facts.
I'm not saying that they weren't real people. I'm saying just those aren't facts for a personal God that hears your prayers and answers them. Nor does that make Christians true. All that is just you connecting dots to fit your belief system and to rationalize it and to make it more logical. When you could
I don't think it's that simple.
Where the most logical thing that you can possibly think, I think is like kind of what I think is like miracles aren't real. I ain't seen a good thing happen to me in my life once. Nah.
Dang, bro.
No, but like miracles aren't real. We got to take care of each other as people. The only way we'll ever advance as a people is through science, education, knowledge. The more we open ourselves up to learning, receiving, and trying to fix things, that's the only way we'll get better. None of that other stuff.
What about love,
counts.
though? What about love? Like, what about
that
love?
That is love.
What about empathy? What about kindness? What about compassion? What about all these things that Jesus was the biggest proponent for?
You think those are new things that nobody has ever thought about?
I think
Eastern religions had these things far. They had some of those things, but the way Jesus erased the racial divide between the Jews and the Samaritans, the way Jesus empowered women, the way Jesus, like, he did so many radical things that were so contrary to culture, that was so in the face of religion. And again, this is a guy running around claiming to be God. This is why they crucified him. He claimed to be God, and then he said, I'm going to come back, and then he came back and was around for 40 days. Then he said he was going to come back again.
He's coming.
How crazy would it be if he came back and he had the footage of me like, nah.
What if he came back right now? What if he knocked on the door and it was Jesus? No, but look, I think this is where you've made some great points, and I'll just be like, man, some good points. I think, because I struggle with a lot of that stuff. No, you're laughing, but like, we've had these conversations. Like, I struggle with a lot of the passages you bring up. I struggle with a lot of those things in the scriptures. But again, my faith is just very simple. Like, I sincerely, truly believe that based on history, based on just logic of those people, and based on my own experience.
But these are arguments I've heard my whole life.
I know. Even that's why it's fun to have these conversations.
Even when I was a Christian, eighth grade, I would go to sleep listening to Ravi Zacharias, and to this day, I go to sleep listening to debates with like William Lane Craig and like Christopher Hitchens.
Somebody told me, I was on the way, I was like, yo, I'm finna, my buddy Lamar, who was with me, I was like, yo, I'm finna have my boy Rufat, like, he's like an ex-Christian rapper turned atheist. We're gonna do an interview, and he's like, yeah, man, you need to expose him to some Ravi Zacharias. I don't even know who Ravi Zacharias is.
No, I listened to Ravi Zacharias. I read his books. He got me into C.S. Lewis. But yeah.
So
I've heard these arguments.
Would agree that it's possible that there's a God. It's possible. We'd agree on that. I'm not saying you have to say that there's a God. I'm saying the possibility.
The only way that I see it, that there could be a God, is if there is a deist God. That's about as far as I'm willing to go, and which is like a thing, which is not much different from what atheists believe already. Is like a thing, the power, the universe, energy.
We believe
setting, having some type of effect. But like, what I mean by a deist God is like,
I know what you mean by
communicate with you, doesn't interfere with anything.
Okay,
because it doesn't look to me like God is interfering with anything now.
Can we agree on the fact that what Jesus taught and what his heart was for people was good, was great? It was
some
awesome.
Things. Not everything.
What do you feel like what Jesus taught? We don't need to talk about the Old Testament.
What
did Jesus taught that you feel like was not helpful for humanity?
I will bring a sword between mother and father. No, was it mother and father? Father and son, mother and daughter. You know, like all of this like end of days talk.
You don't appreciate the end of days talk.
Well, it's not even an end of days talk.
And you don't appreciate the hell.
He was like,
you don't appreciate the hell talk.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Okay.
It's terrible. As Christopher Hitchens put it, it's like, I don't want to worship a king, you know, Kim Jong Un. You know what I mean?
Wow.
I don't want to go to your spiritual North Korea, because that's what it sounds like.
Yeah, but on it can sound like that if you just pull those things out of context.
Even so, look at a woman in lust. Get out of here.
You've
Jesus.
committed adultery in your heart, because what he's saying is if you okay, here's a great example. I did a Bible study on this, right? Christians are rule keepers, right? They're religious people are rule keepers, right? So just follow me for a second. So Christians is like, yo, you know, I didn't commit this sin, right? I didn't do this. The religious people are like, I didn't do this. And Jesus is like, yeah, but if that was even in your heart, like, you might as well have done it. And this is what I'll parallel it to. And I did a Bible study on this. It's on the Patreon. Christians are very much like, no profanity, no cuss words, no profanity, no cuss words. Unwholesome talk. Let no unwholesome talk come out of your mouth, right? And they think that's limited to like 4 words, right? F word, S word, the B word, and like, if you're in Europe, then the C word. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's those 4 words, right? Yeah. But that scripture is what it's real. What those scriptures are really saying is, you think it's about language. I'm saying let nothing unwholesome come out of your mouth, but what's edifying and encouraging and uplifting. You think the standard is don't go put your penis in somebody else's wife. I'm saying if you're coveting and you're envying and you're jealous and you're admiring something that someone that isn't your spouse, that you've committed adultery in your heart. That the standard, you say, don't, you know, you've heard that it said that do not commit murder. But I'm saying if you hate your brother, you've committed murder in your heart. Love your enemies. Right? Like, these are amazing values and virtues that what it does is it diffuses the ability to be self-righteous and say, Rufat, I'm a better person than you because I don't cuss, and you're an atheist and you cuss. I'm a better person than you because I don't commit adultery, and you know what I mean? Like, it diffuses that self-righteous spirit, and it says, no. We're going to level the playing field. Everybody is a sinner. And to make the good news is everybody's a sinner. That's the bad news. The good news is, and I've came to pay atonement for your sins and to live the life that you couldn't live and die the death that you should have died. That the way you describe humanity as jacked up, as wicked, as terrible, as evil, Jesus said, you're right, Rufat, and I did something about it. And I decided to go to the cross and pay that penalty, because the wages of sin is death.
How am I going to...
Isn't that beautiful though? Like, isn't that beautiful?
Yeah,
isn't that a beautiful story?
And I still quote certain scriptures. I wear Saint Lazarus around my neck. I think Saint Lazarus is.
Who's the man?
Huh?
Who's the man?
Yeah.
He was the first dude Jesus brought back from the dead, right?
Yeah.
Well, no, didn't he bring back
4 days
the girl?
He was smelling.
Yeah, 4 days, and he was like, remember he was like, he brought Lazarus back from the day he was 4 days. Jesus was only dead in the tomb for 3 days.
Therefore, Lazarus. It might be Lazarus's joint. Yeah, I might need to start worshiping Lazarus.